So I will project my PowerPoint. Um, so I wanted to start with this dilemma, with this profound dilemma on the difference between the awareness and the beingness. Awareness and beingness. So to say, we are, and at the same time, we are not totally aware of ourselves. And that is the question of power and consciousness, why they are not together. So in Savitri, Satyavan, when Satyavan meets Savitri for the first time, he explains to her this dilemma. And this is in these words: I looked upon the world and missed the self, capital S. And when I found the self, I lost the world. So either I find myself, real, true self, and lose the world, or I find the world and lose the self. My other selves I lost, and the body of God, the link of the finite with the infinite, the bridge between the appearance and the truth, the mystic aim for which the world was made, the human sense of immortality. So there is something which unites them both. This is the major topic of today, consciousness power. When they are united, when they are one, then there is this third modality. It's neither me away from the world or world away from me, but both together. Consciousness and power come together. And then there is another quotation from Adoration of the Divine Mother, which I wanted also to bring here, which is speaking about the same but in a different way. It's about realization of Ashwapati. A being intimate and unnameable, a wide compelling ecstasy and peace felt in himself, and all, and yet ungrasped, approached and faded from his soul's pursuit as if forever luring him beyond. There is this oneness of consciousness and power which is never totally and fully realized. Near, it retreated. Far, it called him still. Nothing could satisfy but its delight. I will come back to this phrase again. Its absence left the greatest actions dull. Its presence made the smallest seem divine. When it was there, the heart's abyss was filled. But when the uplifting deity withdrew, existence lost its aim in the inane. Profound. This gap, this heart's abyss was filled. That gap which creates the difference between consciousness and power was filled. And nothing could satisfy but its delight. So this union of consciousness and power generates that what we know as delight. And if we look into the fundamentals of the Vedic vision, so we would see that the transcendental being, Sat, then we have consciousness, power, Sat, Chit Shakti is following, or Chit Tapas is next, and then there is Ananda, the delight. So the delight is the kind of a product or the outcome of the union of consciousness and power. the delight itself is the fundamental union of consciousness and power. We never thought of delight in those ways. We think that delight, enjoyment, is something just given. No, it is when consciousness and power are matched. Then I want us to go to this metaphysical overview, this kind of Vedic overview of how they got split, consciousness and power, and what it means for us. In Savitri, Sri Aurobindo speaks in this way about the creation. In the enigma of the darkened vasts, in the passion of self-loss of the infinite, a contradiction founds the base of life. The eternal, the divine reality has faced itself with its own contraries. Being became the void, and conscious force nescience, and walk of a blind energy. And ecstasy took the figure of world pain. Now these four first emanations, such as life, light, bliss, and truth, were kind of converted or turned into the opposites. Every one of them fell into the opposite except the energy. The energy, the power, became blind. It didn't disappear. It carries the world. Yeah? The power is the carrier of the world, but it is blinded. It does not see what it is. It doesn't have the awareness of itself. So it acts in the blind manner, and that causes a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, and creates that world which as we know it. And this is interesting. So there are gradations of awareness. And these gradations of awareness are nothing but the levels of consciousness and being. So from the highest, from the transcendental, Satchit Ananda, it goes down to the supramental, where the world is created, where the difference is made. And from the supramental, the difference is defined between the activities of consciousness within the power capacity. And these kind of levels upon levels I wanted us to discuss today. So if we look at the transcendental, which is the most fundamental 1, 2, 3, so to say, Satchit Ananda or Satchit Tapas Ananda. Consciousness is always force or power, where in the Veda they speak of them as these great godheads, Adityas, Varuna, Mitra, Aryaman, Bhaga. They are always mentioned together. And it's quite interesting that in the Veda, Mitra and Aryaman are mentioned always together. There is no hymn dedicated to Aryaman separately from Mitra. Yes. So when Varuna and Mitra are mentioned, Aryaman is implied. He follows them. So force, power follows consciousness and being. And there is no power separate from consciousness, so to say, in the transcendental vision. It will be so in the lower hemisphere. And then there is supramental. One in many, in many in one, and many, as Sri Aurobindo describes these three levels of the supermind, which connects the transcendental with this world, the link world. And in the Vedas, these are Adityas, Daksha, Amsha, and Surya. Daksha is all unifying vision of oneness. Amsha is one in many and many in one. There is already division made, and Surya with his rays manifests the multitude creation. Surya is manifestation. And And from Surya world, we move to the world of the rays of the sun, of a mental or universal level of consciousness, which is also triple, supramental overmind, and intuition, in the words of Sri Aurobindo. In the Vedas, they are mentioned as three luminous realms, Trirochana. And these three levels are also, one is more unifying, other is diversifying, and finally they're diversified constantly as intuition, as the ray of intuition comes down to us to a particular purpose in particular time and space. And then this triplicity is again projected in the triple mind, the three heavens of the Veda, Tisrodhyavah, and then in the triple vital, in the three vital spaces, Trini Rajansi, and then finally the triple physical, the three earths in the Veda, Tisrobhumi. I have another slide. If you look at this, the triple world starting from the supermind. Behind the supermind there is Satchit Tapas Ananda, which notice that Satchit Tapas Ananda is again in the same triplicity. Sat is the oneness of the being. Chit Tapas is that which will create the difference, the two. Two, not only in the number, in the order, but also in the number two. And then finally, Ananda is many, three. One creates two, and two creates three, which is many. I'm just quoting or rephrasing Tao Te Ching. One generated two, and two generated many. So this is an interesting thing because it's exactly our topic of the two consciousness power, and this is the split of these two generates or creates the world. And this, on the supramental level, it is one in many and many in one. And you can see it beautifully. So unity, one in many, many in one, and many. These are three levels of the supermind, which are projected into this world as over mental consciousness, Svar world in the Veda, Trirochana, or Trini Rochanani, three luminous realms. And finally, these generate three mental, vital, and physical worlds, which are also triple. Notice, everything is triple in a way. So, I think this major vision of triplicity of the mental, vital, and physical worlds is fundamental for our understanding of psychology. Because we have these kind of centers of consciousness in us. If you examine them closely, we will see that mental mind is more unifying, vital mind is more diversifying, and physical mind is totally spreading, or in time and space, the thoughts and the ideas. Mental vital is more unifying. Vital is diversifying. Physical vital is that sensation in the body with 72,000 nadis spreading through. And finally, mental physical is more unifying physical, holding it as a one being. Vital physical, diversifying energies in the physical. And physical is each cell, each atom is unique creation, totally many, yes, a multitude creation. And if you look at the world, we will see that all physical creation is infinitely diversified. There is nothing same in the world. If you compare, you will not find the same fingerprint. You will never find the same leaf from the tree. They will be very similar, but not the same. You will not find the same pebble on the shore. They are all infinitely different. And this is physical. The complete differentiation, infinity in differentiation. This is the aim of creation. Now, if you look at these 9, it's quite interesting because in the Vedas they speak about these 9 as Navagva rishis with 9 rays. These are 9 rays of our embodied consciousness, from the mental mind to the physical. These are the terms used by the mother. I am taking it from her, because they are helping us to understand these triple worlds of the Veda. And since they were mentioned in the Veda as 3 heavens, 3 spaces, and 3 earths, so I kind of combine them into one paradigm. So if you look at these 9, you will see that they are actually representing the centers of consciousness in our being. Vital, it's immediately the navel chakra. Manipura chakra. Physical vital is Svadhisthana chakra. Mental physical is Muladhara chakra. And below you could see 2 more chakras, vital physical and physical. Mother speaks about 2 chakras below Muladhara. One is on the level of the knees and the other on the level of the feet, about which nobody much speaks in the Indian tradition because these are very difficult to determine levels of consciousness. So on the physical, the consciousness is so narrowed down that you hardly can be aware of it. So it's totally lost, as it were. And the upper, you could see vital is Manipura chakra, navel. Mental vital is more of the Anahata chakra, where there is mental vital, interestingly, yes, emotional level. If vital is more feeling, these impulses of the vital. Physical vital is more sensations, more energies in the body, subtle energies, 72,000 nadis coming through this Svadhisthana chakra between navel and sexual center. That Dantian center in Chinese system, which is connecting all the energies within the physical body. So this is our torso. You can clearly see that vital is basically torso, 3 chakras of the heart, Anahata, Manipura, and Svadhisthana. And then there are legs, starting with the highest chakra, the sexual center, mental physical, then on the level of the knees, vital physical, and on the level of the feet. Another section, legs. So legs, torso, and finally head. And physical mind is Vishuddha chakra in the throat. The vital mind is Ajna, or our center of the willpower, and mental mind is Sahasrara chakra. Look at this beautiful vision of our composition of power and consciousness. Why I'm saying consciousness and power here? Because it's how consciousness operates on all levels and generates a particular interaction with power. Capacity of power grows. Yeah? So when Kundalini Shakti is awakened from the mental, physical, as it were, breaks through from within, it unites all the levels into one. It becomes one being, as it were. So these are 9 levels or 9 chakras. There are 3 more. And these three more are three Rochana of the Swara world. Mother speaks about them also, that above the Sahasrara chakra, there are three more levels of consciousness, and they are leading up to the supermind. So there are 12 chakras, according to the Mother. And here they are. So the consciousness and power become more and more harmonized, one, with each level of consciousness. The higher we rise, the more they are harmonized. The lower we come, the less they are harmonized. The less consciousness is present, the less it can operate within the power. This is the vision of the Veda and integral yoga. Now I will stop. I have more things. I wanted to show you how they are viewed, these three mental, three vital, and three physical in the scheme of things. In the Matthias created this scheme of integral yoga. You could see them: outer mind, inner mind, and mental self. These are the three layers of the mind, as it were, becoming more and more deeper conscious, so to say, three vitals and three physical levels. But I will stop at this, and we can discuss things if you want. Please.
Vladimir, namaste. This is Manan.
Yes, Manan. Namaste.
So thank you for the very insightful presentation around especially the bit around chakras was very fascinating. In some practices, I have been actually connecting to the sole of the feet and doing a lot of conscious walking, and that seems to help with some kind of subconscious and childhood memories and things like that. But I hadn't quite read so far that the mother has talked about two chakras at the knee level and the feet level. So if you could elaborate a bit more on that and maybe how that could play a role in conscious healing. I'm just kind of intrigued by that a bit right now. Thank you.
Actually, I can't elaborate much on this because I have no idea what it is. Truly speaking, it is the most, we are dealing with our consciousness mainly in the torso, but not in our legs. There is something about legs and walking, you are right, because Sri Aurobindo was walking in his chamber for years, you know. He was putting consciousness into the, as he explains, karmendriyas, into the senses of action. You know? And that was the major, it's another kind of language which can help us to understand the difference between consciousness and power, that our karmendriyas are coming from the power which is not conscious, so to say. Karmendriyas are legs, hands, speech, procreatory and excretory organs. These are the actions which connect our being with the outer world, activities, action senses, karmendriyas. And they are in the Vedas known as panis, as the um, adversaries of the light which comes to us. The light of consciousness is being stolen by them. They steal it and hide it in subconscious cave. So one of these panis, Sri Aurobindo speaks about this in The Secret of the Veda, that they are all coming from the same root, pan. Pan or pad, pada is the leg, pani is the hand, notice, and so on. Pada is the word. So he connects this with the idea that the activities, when we are active, we are becoming less conscious. So the more we are active outwardly in our senses of actions, the less we are conscious. And you can notice it. You start moving and you become less conscious of yourself. You are more engaged in the energy of activity. This is the problem of our psychology. So how to connect the consciousness with activity, with the energy of action? How to be active and perceptive at the same time. This is the biggest question and the biggest problem of our existence. To be active and to be aware at the same time. We are either active or we are aware. When we become aware, we stop moving. We become totally, even the whole yoga was developed in that way, that you have to become still, absolutely still. You have to stop moving. You sit in the particular asana, close your eyes. You stop even breathing, stop thinking if you want to become perceptive. Because all this thinking, breathing, moving is taking away our awareness. Notice how we are built. So these are the levels here, from mental mind to the physical. These are the levels which are taking away our awareness into the activities. So you can see in this scheme beautifully that the whole physical level is nothing but the expression of the spiritual being. Yeah? So there is no physical against or away from the spirit. It's just consciousness is less present there, or less capable of being present there. So physical is that level where we are less aware of ourselves. And so padas, or the feet, or the legs, are one of those karmendriyas which are stealing our awareness and storing it in the subconscious cave. Now, about the subconscious cave, it's Vedic imagery. They're stealing our light, our perception, and hiding it in the subconscious cave, which we have to recover. We have to break through that vala. Vala is that cave which Indra breaks with his lightning and releases all stolen treasures, all the herds of light, and recovers a new heaven, a new sun is born from within the subconscious cave. So there is a lot of treasure stored in the subconscious cave over millions and billions of years of our evolution, which was investment of the consciousness into this being to make it more and more conscious and aware. And that's how we slowly build this body. This body is the result of that investment of the spirit, making instruments of knowledge more and more receptive of the spirit. I do not know whether we are on the same page, but
No, we absolutely are. This is very fascinating, and I'll definitely delve into the literature of Sri Aurobindo and the mother on the specific lines. The next question is around, okay, so Vladimir, around the Gurukul system, right? There are multiple stages of learning like Shravanam, Mananam, and then knowledge by identity. So in this context, the context of the various levels, right? These various levels of the mind, the vital, the physical, what can we consciously do to align and unify the being so that we are more receptive and we can kind of reach that kind of aspiration and mode of learning where we kind of move beyond just Shravanam and Mananam and to the higher possibilities.
right. When you said Shravana and Manana and Nididhyasana, yeah, there is a problem with this because these are the faculties of consciousness. Yeah, so mind, hearing, speaking, these are annam, pranam, chakshushrotram, manovacham. This is the definition of the six major faculties of the Brahman, of the spirit. Yeah? So Brahman is present in this world through these faculties. Yeah, it is not by the speech that you can know, express Brahman, but by Brahman that you speak. It is not by the mind that you can think of Brahman, but because of Brahman, by Brahman, that you think. Now, if you start viewing this, how it is, how these faculties are engaging spirit into manifestation, you will see that these are the tools for the spirit to manifest itself. So as it is said in the literature that by Nama and Rupa, Brahman came into this world, or Brahma Chatushpad, which is Manas and Vak, and the Chakshuk and Shrotram, seeing and hearing and speaking and thinking. Now, these are the major faculties of consciousness which introduce the spirit into this world and make this world charged with its presence. So when we speak about Shravana is first and Manana is the next, we mean that first we perceive, we start to comprehend what is going on, and then we conceptualize that comprehension. We put it into the conceptual, more doable, or how to say, thinkable form. And then once we have that, we mastered that, we move into more meditative form, or knowing both. Again, it's interesting here because this topic again brings consciousness and power. How to put it? Manas and Vak. Vak is more comprehensive, whereas Manas is about form, more apprehensive cognition. So there's comprehensive and apprehensive cognition taking place. So first we start with comprehensive. We have to understand first. Then we have to apprehend, to shape it, to recognize the form. And then finally we combine them both. And once we combine both, we again combine consciousness and power. Even here, consciousness and power comes back to us, yeah, because each form in this world has two cognitions. Yeah, if you look at anything, usually I show something. If you look at this, and I will ask you what it is, you will say it's a pen. But how do you know that it is a pen? Yeah? So you see something, you see some shape, but you know that this shape is a pen, and pen is something which writes. You don't see it writing. You see something like a stick of the blue color, but don't know. Maybe it's not a pen. Maybe it's something else. So you know about it that it is a pen through the word, through comprehension. You know how this thing, form, interacts with other forms. You know what it does. So these two, comprehensive and apprehensive, Nama and Rupa, constitute all the manifestation. This Nama and Rupa is consciousness and power. This form is a power, but its meaning is to write, and that is consciousness. So consciousness and power are present throughout, as our seeing and hearing, as our Shravana and Manana, if you will. So since you asked Shravana and Manana, I didn't see it coming, but you can see that this fundamental issue of consciousness and power is pervading all our existence. Okay, it's more for contemplation rather than the answer, yeah, I think. Yes, please, some other questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vladimir. Lots to digest and absorb and reflect upon, and hopefully better than that too. Thank you.
Yes, you're most welcome. Siegfried has some thoughts, I think. I can see in his face.
Hello, Vladimir again.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the midday after lunch here in Spain. This is Siegfried from Menorca. I have a question. I have many questions, but I want to share the time with other colleagues. Physical could be cells, the body cells.
Yes.
And why
That
you say there is lower consciousness there? And if I want to ask if this self-consciousness is not like a cosmic consciousness, because in some way we can maybe think, only think, not feel, maybe think, we can think about the cells, they have consciousness by itself as well. This is cosmic consciousness or self-consciousness?
Well, consciousness is present on each level, on the atom level also totally present, the same as it is present in the highest. It's not about that. It's about the composition of it. Yes, what consciousness can do on the level of the cell, on the level of the atom, and what the consciousness can do on the level of the human being, thinking and speaking and building the worlds and destroying the worlds. So this is about the capacity of consciousness which grows to the extent that it is totally matching with power. And on the supramental level, there is a total match between the two. Yeah. So on the supramental level, whatever you envision will become a reality. That level of consciousness we do not have here with power corresponding. Yeah? So there is a gap. There is a gap of time and space, and the gap is time and space. So I was giving this example of the children being born, babies. When babies are born, they are, they are coming from the world where their will is executed or realized immediately. So in the subtle world, when you will something, it moves things. So when they come to the physical and they are wondering, they with his hand, this baby shows what he wants, and that thing is not coming to him. So he's kind of trying with his cry, with his will, and it is not moving. So in that subtle consciousness, it would move, but in this physical being, it doesn't move. It stays where it is. So here, this dilemma of consciousness and power, that they are not totally matching. So we have a gap, and that the gap is to be covered with all our instruments. We created so many instruments, notice, so many things to help us move other things. We used the nature to move other bits and pieces of nature. So we are kind of, through nature, we are building our relations with nature to influence the objects, because they can't be influenced through consciousness directly. They have to be influenced through instruments we created in the power. So we have...
What I understand, thank you, Vladimir. What I understand is like there is consciousness in itself, in the person, in the being, and there is a consciousness in itself in the cell, but the limitations are the consciousness influence or power to interlink or connected with the environment. The difficulty has the cell to connect with the next cells, or to have a view of the organism or the person.
Right, absolutely.
And even in the limitation of the consciousness self, is the difficulty of the limitation, less power, to be conscious of the other beings around you, or the humanity, or the community.
Yeah.
I think this is the limitation. The lower consciousness in this way, I think. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the mother says that the cell is made in a perfect sense. It is actually an immortal being. It can exist forever, but when it starts interacting with other cells, kind of working together within one organ or within one system, In the interaction between the two cells, the problem lies. The problem is within the harmonization of activity of one cell with the other cell. And all the difference, there the mortality comes. Mortality is incapacity of interaction between different entities. Mortality is incapacity. Immortality would be total capacity of interaction. Right. Okay, if there are some other questions, I can see some names here. I do not know whether they are participating or interested. Don't see anyone, see only Siegfried. It would be nice if you could show your faces or something. I'm talking to the names written down. Hi, Manan. Manan was talking, but others... Usually when we have these conferences, we show up. We are not hiding behind the screen. I know in India it is normal to hide behind the screen, but it is nice to see someone and that there are human beings there, not just words. And it is much easier to speak to, not to speak to the screen, but to speak to someone who looks at you. Yeah, you see, I kind of thank you for showing your faces, few faces at least. And if you can say something or are interested in something, it would be, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have one more question, Vladimir. When you were explaining the different combinations of the mental, right, to physical, you were talking about mental in the spirit of universifying and unifying, and the vital as diversifying, and the physical as multiplicity, right to the level of the cells. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? I mean that nature of the three.
Yes, you can see it everywhere, by the way. You can see it even I'm coming from the background of general linguistics, you will see it there also. Yeah? So you will see that that Pashyanti Vak is the intention of the action. Then there's Madhyama Vak is the dressing of that intention into the words. It's already, I have to use many different entities to express the intention within the context. And then finally I express it in a particular space and time, and that becomes a unique expression. Even here, you can see it on every level, this kind of process of from the general to the most, what do you call it, unique, from the general to the unique. This is the process of creation, yeah, which is taking place. Because in time and space, no one can occupy the same space, twice. This is another thing of time and space, which is unique. If you think of it, we are constantly in a fresh and new space. And that is the time. Time does not permit us to stay in the same space, which creates a completely unique creation all the time. As Mother says, from the supramental point of view, this world is being created every moment and destroyed every moment. It's constantly a new world. We just don't know it. We think that it is the same world because there is uninterrupted some kind of, ongoing process of memory, which is kind of holding things together. But from within, if you look at this world, it is being constantly generated by the Spirit. Because the Spirit is that infinite, eternal being which generates this world. That's why it can exist.
So I have a question.
Yes, nice, please.
Just a second, I'll just put on the camera. So, yeah. So you were talking about this idea of whenever we want to be more aware, more conscious, we have to sit like in eyes closed and meditative pose, and we are feeling very conscious, aware. But the moment any activity happens, we usually get lost in the action and lose this parallel sense of being conscious, being aware. So would you like to kind of give hints and pointers here? And also I would like to know more about the connection with breath in bringing back the consciousness, like attention on being consciousness and also being engaged in the activity. So if you have anything to say here.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a good question, by the way. The whole karma yoga, if we look at what Mother proposed to have in Auroville, is exactly about this, how to take activity and make it the means for becoming aware of more conscious. It's a very difficult task. Karma yoga is the secret of all secrets, actually. How to connect the activity with consciousness. That power and consciousness, how to make them more connected. And yes, the means were developed, the Hatha Yoga, the Pranayama. Pranayama, why do we need Pranayama? We need Pranayama to control breath. Why to control breath? Because we have to come to the level where we will stop breathing. Kumbhaka, Kevala Kumbhaka has to be developed, not Rechaka and Purvaka, but Kumbhaka, stopping of the breath without breathing in and without breathing out, is the top of pranayama. If you arrive at that you can stop breathing without breathing in and without breathing out, just stop breathing altogether, that means you are a master of breath. Now, master of breath means that you will be able to hold your breath for a while, and that will lead you to a deep contemplation. When you don't breathe, you notice when you meditate, your breath becomes very shallow, hardly breathing. You don't do while meditating. You don't do that. You're becoming very, very superficial with breath and nearly no breathing. The more you are concentrated, you stop breathing. You notice how animals, before they jump to attack, they stop everything. They are totally focused. Focus means stopping breathing, stopping moving, stopping everything. Being totally focused on one thing. This is the problem of our existence. How to be active, flow with activity, and be aware of our inner being, that's why we are not aware, because once we start activity, we lose the inner perception of ourselves. Then we have to sit and meditate for hours to find that connection with our inner self. And once we have it, we come to the outer activity and we lose it again. By the way, the same question was asked by Pavitra to Sri Aurobindo. He asked him, what should I do when I meditate? I'm so great, I'm in connection with this force, but when I start activity, outer activity, and especially even mental activity, I want to solve some equations. He was a mathematician, and he loved mathematics. So when he is engaged in that activity, he loses the connection. Even in mental activity, not only in the physical. And Sri Aurobindo suggested to him, he said, you go slow. You do a mechanical work, keeping that connection of perception. That's why Mother gave to many people in the ashram this work of washing dishes, sweeping the floor. Why sweeping the floor, washing dishes? Because once you establish the connection with the spirit and do the activity slowly without interrupting that connection, this is where our training ground is. Yes, how to be aware and to be active. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's not so simple as it looks like.
Yeah, I think quite resonates with nowadays. This thing is in very vogue. One can say, being mindful of whatever I am doing. So as you said, being slow with the movements. If I'm lifting a thing, so just be conscious that I am lifting a thing. Usually I do it without consciousness. Yes.
Yes. Yes, very nice. And also this Tai Chi or something, when you see what Tai Chi is doing, you can really bring consciousness into this uninterrupted movement. When you move your hands, don't move them unconsciously, don't break. Hold that uninterrupted flow of consciousness with the movement of hands. And you will see how it is click, 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 click. It doesn't want to be smoothly moving together with movement. So this training is needed to really become aware within one's being outside.
And I think one challenge which I particularly face is this restless prana in the body, the restless energy, because I may continue the slow movement and a conscious movement for a particular duration, but then I have to become restless because there's so much energy, which, as Sri Aurobindo talks about, getting settled in the vital. I believe for me that really worked, that the lower vital, getting settled there. So as if like a settling down in oneself, that I think maybe gradually it comes as we progress ahead on the path.
Yeah, vital is that breath, that particular life force, which unfortunately is not totally ours because we are open to the vital world and there are so many other powers coming in and so many interested parties to share with us our life. Yeah? So we are not even aware what is going on. We have desires, preferences, this, movements, impulses, and we are not aware that these are not ours even. They are just coming from the vaster nature.
Yeah, beautiful. So I think this thing of, the idea of becoming more conscious in our movements, I think comes up again and again with every speaker and also Mother's words, just to become conscious of whatever you are doing and also of the inner movements happening. Because self-mastery cannot come before I become conscious of whatever is happening in the being.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for these.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay,
so
then
anything, any last comments, any questions? Okay, thank you, Vladimir. Thank you so much for the insightful talk.
Namaste.
Thank you. So we have the next speaker in 5 minutes or so. 4 minutes. Dr. Yogesh Mohan. I think he has not yet joined in. So let's take a pause for 4 minutes and wait for Dr. Yogesh.